It's Wednesday, August 1st, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On today's show, we explore the Vision 88 plan to connect all 15 towns by bike, fly into the airport for an update, and the town clerk's office is ready for the primary. Let's start with some news you can use. A special ceremony commemorating the 65th anniversary of the Korean War armistice was held at Veterans Park on Friday, July 27th. Channel 18 was there to document the event and spoke with two local men that have strong ties to Korea and its history. We're here at the Korean War Memorial commemoration, the 65th anniversary of the signing of the armistice, ending the Korean War. With me, Jung-ho Park, executive, just everything of the Cape Symphony.
The guy who waves his hands.
the guy who waves his hands. A Korean American. Jung-ho, what did this day mean to you?
Actually, it meant a lot. When I got the invitation, I was supposed to actually arrive the day after, but I moved my entire schedule to be here because it's not that often I have the opportunity to actually celebrate my ethnic heritage. I was born in San Francisco, raised in California, grew up on Andy Griffith and I Dream of Jeannie and all this other stuff. But over the past several years, I've grown to have a much deeper understanding of the sacrifice this country made. I don't think people really realize. They call it the Forgotten War, and which is really tragic because it was one of the most horrific and dramatic wars that America's ever participated in. And when you know that story and you know the sacrifice, as a Korean American, you feel absolutely compelled to give thanks to this country and to the veterans.
Meeting the Consulate General from Korea today, was that your first meeting?
Truly, what an elegant and articulate man he is. He's been only on the job for, I think, a couple of months, and I think he's going to be an excellent Consul General. He comes at a very kind of tricky time right now. Obviously, the politics and the news. We heard today that there's a repatriation of some of the remains of the soldiers who came back. Very exciting news. But he walks a very fine line because I think he wants to be encouraging of the possible reunification, but at the same time acknowledge the great sacrifice.
And how excited are you to expose Cape Cod to Korean culture with the symphony?
Well, I've sort of kept a low profile over the many years. After a decade, I feel like I can maybe show my colors a little bit more. I mean, one of the ways that people know that I'm Korean is certainly, besides the way I look, and my name, Jung-ho Park, which was, when I was a younger man, I actually chose an American name, like so many immigrants. And then my American name was Don. So far from Jung-ho, I can't even believe it. But today, I'm very proud. And so we're planning next year to do a special Korean program. We do these passport concerts in which we go to different countries. And we've been to Asia, but not specifically Korea. So I want to bring the absolute best, the best singers, the best performers, and tell the story of this beautiful partnership between South Korea and America.
Thank you so much for being here today.
It's my honor. Thank you.
Greg, how special was today's ceremony for you, obviously as a Director of Veterans Affairs, but also there's a family connection too?
Yes, I have the honor to serve veterans from born in Wareham all the way to Provincetown, and a lot of them Korean vets, but also my father was a Korean War veteran, and my father-in-law especially was a Marine sergeant who fought in terrible combat in Korea. He was and this time is special to our family because he was in the final battles of the Korean War. He was wounded there. 75% of his unit was lost, and they were defending Hill 119, the Crucible, the approaches to Seoul that the Chinese at the time were unloading everything as the armistice was about to be signed to move that border closer and closer. And so it was terrible fighting right up to the end.
So today, as you sat through the ceremony and you heard from the Consulate General of South Korea, that country today makes some of those sacrifices worth it?
Absolutely. It was a pleasure listening to him. I wish my father-in-law, he was here at the dedication of this, and I wish he could have been here to hear that today.
Excellent. Is there any other thoughts that you want folks out there to really understand? They do call it the Forgotten War, but it's not forgotten. The families who made sacrifices and the men and women who fought in that war.
Right. Just like I said, my father-in-law, Sergeant Jim Everson, there are many families like that, many Cape veterans that fought in the Korean War, and it's special to them. It's not forgotten. Hopefully it's passed down through the generations.
Thank you so much for speaking with us. From Bourne to Provincetown, Vision 88 is connecting all 15 towns together with a multi-use trail. Stephen Tupper, Transportation Program Manager at the Cape Cod Commission, stopped by the studio to update us on the progress of the bike trail and current plans for the future. Stephen Tupper, Transportation Program Manager at the Cape Cod Commission, and the Cape Cod Commission have a Vision 88, of connecting all 15 towns to a bike path or a multi-use path. With me, Stephen, this is exciting news. Some of it's built, some of it just got funded, and some of it's still a dream. Why don't you back us up a little bit and tell us what Vision 88 is?
Sure. Vision 88 is a vision to connect a spine of multimodal accommodation, a bike path from Woods Hole up to the Canal Path in Bourne, and then all the way out to Provincetown. And that'd really be the spine of the network, and then we'd have connections into all the communities along the way. It's roughly 88 miles in total length, hence the name. And we've been working on the projects in little pieces, but it's the first time we've kind of come out with the Vision 88 title. We're about halfway built at this point, so it's starting to really come together as a regional vision.
Right. And that regional vision, why bike? Why that multi-use path?
I think it's always been well known that it's an important part of our economy in terms of that recreational facility, and it certainly is a big draw in a number of our communities. But we also see it as an important transportation asset. Being out there on the path, you also see a lot of folks biking to work, biking to maybe the grocery store, so we want it to really be part of the transportation network. And that's why we're looking really regionally to have it a key part of the network that builds in with the road network, links up to transit, and it's really part of the system.
Great. So let's take that vision through. We've got a bike path now that goes from Wellfleet to almost Yarmouth. We're almost there. So tell us where we are on that extension from Dennis to Yarmouth.
So certainly, heading into Barnstable, we've been marching from the east piece by piece, and we're very close right now at Bass River. So that's the project that's currently under construction. Folks have been using it. It's not quite open yet. There'll be a formal opening in the fall. But then we'll continue heading into Yarmouth. So once you get over Bass River Bridge, it gets a bit further over Station Ave into the old Townhouse Road area. And then there's another section funded a few years out that'll bring it all the way into Barnstable, all the way to Mary Dunn Road. So that'll be bringing it right into the town of Barnstable.
That's great. Our videographer specialist, Chris Letta, would love to ride his bike to work every day from Yarmouth. So let's talk about some of the things that just got funded.
So that's one section that's funded, the connection from Barnstable into Yarmouth. And they're also marching in the other direction. The town of Sandwich has been working on a shared use path along the service road, take advantage of some recent utility work that left a fairly nicely graded portion along there. So they're going to build a path there and march into Barnstable from the other side. So both of those projects are funded in year 2022. A little bit out at this point, but it'll be there before we know it.
Exactly. And when you say marching into Barnstable, really the vision here is to connect into the transportation center and really literally into Hyannis. That must be a challenge.
Absolutely. So the Vision 88 is the spine, but those connections are really what gets people to where they're trying to get to. So we want to eventually see a multi-use path down Yarmouth Road, Willow Street, get you to the Hyannis Transportation Center, down into Main Street of Hyannis, the whole business area there. That would be a great connection. There's a lot of other connections on the development. The town's working on a path on Bierce's Way as well, all these little pieces that will eventually come together into a real network.
And we talk about some of the other areas here. Some of the towns are actually building paths right to their beaches.
Absolutely, and Brewster in particular, Department of Conservation and Recreation, is in the planning phase right now. They've had a number of public meetings connecting the Cape Cod Rail Trail right up to the bay. So we know it's a challenge getting people to park down there, so this way people could just not even use the car, just take a bike or take a walk down. It's not too long, and get right onto the beach that way.
That's easy, right? Now getting there to, finding that you do get there with a car and there is no parking.
Yes.
Our beaches have that same issue sometimes. And then the last piece of this, as we go from Sandwich out, one of my favorites is the Shining Sea bike path, but I also love the canal too. Are there plans to connect the two?
Absolutely. So those are both great resources in the towns of Falmouth and the towns of Bourne, and there is a vision to connect those. So the Commission, and originally Cape Cod Commission, did a feasibility study of making that connection. Folks have been referring to it as the Bourne Rail Trail, and the town of Bourne has been working on starting the process to get that funded, working with the state. There's certainly some design challenges to still work out there, but ultimately that would be the vision, connecting up the Shining Sea bike path up with the canal path.
So this must be one of your favorite projects.
Absolutely. So there's everyone wants to talk about traffic, but we'll get there, and then we want to talk about how to get people out of their cars and make the connections on the bike paths or the sidewalks as well.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
Happy to come in.
Katie Service, manager for the Barnstable Municipal Airport, has been on the job for just a little over a month and has flown into planning for the future at the airport. From old standby events to attracting new business and interests, she reaches for the sky in promoting the airport.
The first month, actually, with the transition that Bud has provided for me, it actually went pretty smoothly in terms of I know who I'm working with, I know our commission well, I know a lot of folks in the town that I'm already working with on a regular basis. So being here for 3.5 years prior to that transition was extremely helpful because I had boots on the ground, I was part of the system already, and so that was an easier transition. Transitioning my new assistant manager, Matt Ilya, into doing the tasks that I formerly did. So we're still going a little bit back and forth with different tasks and different jobs, but I'd have to say by being here for those 3.5 years, that definitely helped with that transition. So every 3 years, the airport is required to look at their emergency response procedures and to have a full out drill where we have participants from all over the Cape that are assisting us as if it was a real incident occurring at the airport. It's a requirement for our airports that are certified under FAR Part 139, and it's just to test your response capabilities, your communication with other members of the town, working through those scenarios of what if X happened? How would you respond to it? So we're testing our skills. So that is actually going to take place this year on September 5th at 7 o'clock in the afternoon. We will have an incident that occurs here at the airport to test our skills. But typically what we do is we work hand in hand with the Hyannis Fire Department to do any type of drill that's coming on the airport. What people don't realize is that if something happens at the airport, let's say God forbid there's an accident, an aircraft accident, we have staff on hand who are first responders. They're all trained in firefighting skills, they drill all the time, and they're trained to respond initially to that incident. Hyannis Fire comes immediately, and once they are here, they take over the scene. They are in control and in command and control of the scene. So we work hand in hand with Hyannis Fire to set up for these drills so that we're training our staff here, but they're also training and evaluating their staff on a response to the airport. So this year we're going to have a split drill. We're going to have a drill that occurs here to test our skills, and the Hyannis Fire Department will have a drill that's occurring in Lewis Bay. So we will have 2 scenarios that are taking place. It's a 2-hour event that's occurring, but we want the community to realize that this is a drill. That's the main thing. We're going to be posting notices several weeks prior to the drill. The Barnstable Police Department will be setting up electronic billboards for us that identify that this is a drill, it's an ongoing drill. We just want the community to be fully aware that it's to test our capabilities and respond to an incident. They will. So what we're doing is we're having people respond as if it was a real incident. So we will even have a media response. We will have different mutual aid we'll have firefighters from different towns within the Cape. We'll have responses from different ambulance companies. So they will see a lot of lights, a lot of sirens, a lot of response to the airport. It will be hard not to miss that activity occurring because we will have ambulances that will be lined up on some of our roadways to get into the drill scene. So they will see a lot of activity, but please note that it's a drill. So the Wings of Freedom Tour is put on by the Collins Foundation. Collins Foundation is located in Stowe, Massachusetts, and they have a living history museum. And what I mean by living history is that their aircraft that they bring on the Wings of Freedom Tour are operating World War II aircraft that you can actually jump in, get a flight in, pay for a flight, and it's just the sense of nostalgia to be able to see those aircraft. And the best thing is hearing those aircraft, to hear those radial engines. It's just, it brings you back in time. And I have to say that that's one of my favorite events that we have here at the airport, because it gives people the opportunity to touch history. Because a lot of these aircraft, they flew in World War II. One of the aircraft that's coming here was part of Doolittle's Raiders. So there's a lot of sense of history that kids, you know, maybe they read about it in their history books and they know what happened with World War II, but to touch a plane that was part of that, that's an amazing feeling. So they'll be here for 3 days. They're going to be here the 24th, 25th, and 26th. They arrive at noontime on the 24th, and they're here until 5 p.m. Then on Tuesday, the 25th, they'll be here from 9 to 5, and then the following day will be their departure day. They'll be here from 9 to noon. So look on our website for information. There's also information on our Facebook page that identifies how much it is for you to jump on a flight with the Collins Foundation. So it's all done through the foundation, but we operate it here at the airport on the East Ramp.
Excellent. And what is something new this year within that, the Touch a Truck piece of it?
Sure. So a lot of people have come to the airport, especially students that have made arrangements through their schools to come for an airport tour. And one of the biggest draws for that tour is to see the equipment that we actually use on a daily operation. Whether that equipment is firefighting equipment, whether it's a large, you know, backhoe or other piece of snow removal equipment, they don't normally see that out on the roadway. So it's important, I think, for kids who, and most kids love big trucks. So I think that if we have the Wings of Freedom tour, but also to have our trucks and our vehicles set up so that they get a chance to see what type of equipment we use to keep this airport operating, I think that's, you know, a great thing for our community to see. You know, this is what we work on to make sure that you're safe on the airfield, to make sure the airfield is open during the winter. So I think it's important for people to see that, to be part of that. I'll step that back a little bit. So we have been talking with our airport commission. We've been working on a marketing plan for the airport, and one of the things that keeps on coming back is that there's a lack of aviation education, not only here at the airport, but also in general, nationwide. There are a lot of students that are just not interested in aviation. There isn't the drive there used to be, and the industry is starting to really feel the pressures of that lack of interest. So we need to bring aviation back into education, and we need to start early. One of the things that we've embarked upon is to, one, have different events at the airport so that our community is getting used to the airport being here. This is what it offers, but send out a lot of buzz about the airport. Get people talking about the airport. What do they offer? You know, maybe a child will hear their parents talking about Barnstable Municipal Airport and say, oh, I could be a pilot, or I could be a mechanic, or I'm interested in possibly learning more about aviation. The more that we can get out in the public eye about aviation in general and to showcase this beautiful facility that is really, I mean, Barnstable's lucky. We're a multimodal town. We have ferries, we have trains, we have buses that come into and we have an airport. What more can we offer, you know, our community? So one of the things that we really need to do is get out in the schools and promote aviation. So that's one of our focuses. As part of that, we've been talking with our existing tenants about, you know, in general, what could we do to promote aviation? Cape Air came to me about 2 weeks ago and said, we would like to open up a chapter of Women in Aviation. Women in Aviation is an international organization. I've been a member for many years. In fact, I belonged to the New Bedford chapter for many years. And we said there's a lot of people on the Cape and the islands that are interested in aviation, and you know, oftentimes you find that a lot of people don't necessarily go over the bridge. So why not bring general aviation and bring a sense of women in aviation to this area and to this community? So that's the intention. In October, we hope to have an introductory meeting for anybody who's interested in being a member of Women in Aviation. The date has not been solidified yet, but it's somewhere around the first or the second week of October, to just present what we can do as an organization, or what our hopes are to do as an organization and a chapter of Women in Aviation, and how we can bring education back to this focus, aviation education in this region, and it might start with that chapter.
Excellent. And did you want to mention the girls in...
Sure. I know a little bit about the girls. So basically, it's Girls in Aviation Day. It's something that Cape Air is promoting, and I would urge you to speak with them to get more information. But it's going to happen on October 23rd here at the airport. And from what I understand from talking to the folks at Cape Air, it's an opportunity to get girls in different cities within Massachusetts that do not necessarily have the access or the means to look into a career for aviation. Maybe it was never brought into their mind as a possibility. Maybe their town that they live in or through their school, they don't have that type of discussion. So it opens up those doors for young girls to give them a sense that you can do this too. Aviation can be part of your life. And you know, you never know. Some of these young ladies that never even thought about aviation, they go to that airport and they see a few planes and they meet some women that are working for Cape Air, for Retric Shuttle, for JetBlue, and all of a sudden it opens up a whole world that they never knew they had access to. And that's the purpose of Girls in Aviation.
Your vote matters, and the town of Barnstable is ready for the primary election on September 4th, the day after Labor Day. Ann Quirk, town clerk, joins us in studio with important information on ballots and polling stations. 'Tis the season for voting. With me today, town clerk Ann Quirk. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, you know what? When you caught me in the stairwell, I always listen to what you say, and today you have the absentee ballots are in.
They are for all of our precincts, and we would love it if people would like to come in and vote absentee because they're not going to be around on election day or for whatever reason, and we will make sure that those votes get to the precincts on election day.
Okay, so let's start with the absentee ballot. How can they get them?
They have to either come in and fill out a request and then actually vote while they're here, or they have to send us a letter requesting it, because I have to have their signature that they want to have an absentee ballot.
Okay, and they have to leave enough time, so, you know, basically August is here, and they're going to need that timely post office time, let's call it that, to get the mail from you to them, and back.
And back, absolutely. Okay. And it's 47 cents that they have to put on there for postage in order for it to come back to me.
Right. So the best thing is if they're able, they can come here to Town Hall. We have handicap parking right out at the base of it. They can take the elevator up to the first floor, or they can come in through the big steps and come to the town clerk's office.
Absolutely. And we have to remind everyone that this is a primary, so I need to know what ballot they need.
Right.
And if they are a registered Republican, they must take a Republican ballot. If they are a registered Democrat, they must take a Democratic ballot. And if they're unenrolled, they can choose. There's also Libertarian ballot, but it's completely blank.
Okay. Oh, nobody on that ballot this year. Okay. So let's kind of reiterate here. People are always confused that you seem to be repeating yourself at the polls. Republican ballot, I'm giving you a Republican ballot. Why do you do that?
You know, it's a state law that each of the clerks that handle the ballots, when you come in, they have to get your address and repeat it, and they have to get your name and repeat it, and then they have to give you whichever ballot you request, and they have to repeat it. It is a law that we do this, and the reason why is checks and balances. Right. Making sure, I heard you say you wanted a Republican ballot. I'm handing you a Republican ballot. And when you walk away, I am marking it on the voter list that you've taken a Republican ballot. Because at the end of the night, I have to make sure that we have the same amount of ballots that were taken that I say were taken and were used that I say were used. It's checks and balances.
Checks and balances. So there's really no instances of fraud here. We're really dotting the I's, crossing the T's. What about those absentee ballots? Do they really get counted?
Oh my gosh, they do. And I know that that's, a lot of people don't understand that, but On election day, those are hand carried over to the precincts. The warden takes the ballots and walks over to the check-in table first and gives the name and the address, which is repeated by the clerk, and pulls out the ballot to say this is the ballot, it's a Republican or Democratic ballot, and then they go over to the checkout and they do the same thing, and then they push the ballots through the voting machine.
So always a check and balance. Everything that happens with our elections have checks and balances.
Absolutely. And they have to do this repeating. I know it bothers a lot of people. If there's anyone that is there from, say perhaps Governor Baker has a group that's sitting there to observe, to make sure that people that say they're going to vote, vote. He might have people out. There's all kinds of people that could be watching and observing. They have to be able to hear us say the address, the name, and the ballot.
Well, now I'll be, did you hear me? I'll be much more cognizant of them doing their job and making our elections safe.
Excellent.
Let's just talk one more time because we want everyone to vote. Precincts have changed for 1, 10, and 12. Please listen carefully. Precinct 1 now is going to be at
The Zion Union Church, which is on 805 Addicks Lane in Hyannis. Huge, beautiful lobby, plenty of parking. It's a great location.
and ADA compliant.
And ADA compliant, which is necessary.
Right. And the combined precincts of 10 and 12, the Marston's Mills area, where should Millbillies vote this year?
We're all going over to the Seventh-day Adventist Community Center. It's a separate building from the church. There will be a police officer outside all day long on Route 28 to get people in and out without a problem. And you'll vote in that beautiful new building. I'm looking forward to it. It's one of my precincts, and I think the folks that work the precincts are looking forward to it too.
Right, and it's ADA compliant. So
Yes.
again, these changes don't happen arbitrarily in your office, Ann, do they?
No, no, no. We have to follow not only state guidelines, but we have to follow federal guidelines, which are more stringent, actually, than the state guidelines.
Right.
So we have to be careful that we're taking care of everyone and making us, all of our polling locations, accessible to everyone and not disenfranchising a soul.
Right, and absentee ballots are ready to go. Get you either come into the town hall or mail them, and we'll see everybody on September 4th.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Ann.
Thank you.
Don't forget, Discover Barnstable is all about tech time at Bismore Park on this Thursday starting at 4:30 p.m. with the town libraries. Comments, suggestions, accolades? Connect with us on Facebook, email us, or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works for you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.